Hey, what up squad, it's your boy K-Flo, and this is my rig walk around. Let's get this thing started. So we got back from a long weekend in Vermont, guys. It was 4 days and 4 nights of camping and overlanding.
Woo hoo hoo. Slowly. Oh, God!
It was a ton of fun. My truck is a little bit dirty, and I know you guys have been asking me to do a walk around of my current setup, so I'm gonna be doing that now. And for those of you who are new, this is a 2009 Toyota Tacoma TRD Sport. And to start with the walkthrough, we'll go to the suspension setup. Currently, my suspension setup are Dobinson's nitro charged struts, along with the Dobinson's heavy front springs. I'm also running the Freedom off-road upper control arm, and all the ball joints in the front, including the tie rods, lower control arm, and upper control arms, those are all Greasable ball joints, because I do aim for longevity when I do these mods. Now I do have full details of how I installed all these components onto the suspension system on this channel, so make sure you check that out if you want further details on all of those smaller components. As far as the rear suspension goes, I'm running the same matching nitro charged shocks made by Dobinsons, and the rear leaf springs are the extra heavy duty leaf springs made by Dobinsons as well. Now as far as the leaf springs go, I also did use the Dobinsons poly bushings, and to match the poly bushings I did use the Dobinsons Greasable pins for the front and the rear of those leaf springs. Now as far as tires and wheels go, guys, I'm currently using my stock wheels along with a 1 1/4 inch spacer made by Trail Gear, and these are hub-centric spacers. And the tires that I'm running are Duratrack made by Goodyear, and these are 285/70 R17. Now as far as the armor goes, I'm currently running the ARB bumper along with a 9.5 ton winch, which works really well with the setup. I also have these Trail Gear rock sliders, which are supposed to be bolt-on, but I did weld them onto the frame. Now as far as rack system goes, guys, I am running the Prinsu rack up there. Now as far as lighting goes, I do have the IPF fog lamps made by ARB mounted right onto the bumper. And along with those fog lamps, I also have these amber 50-watt fog lamps mounted on this portion of the bumper. Last but not least, I do have that 40-inch light bar mounted on the Prinsu rack. Now I do also have the Safari Snorkel made by ARB, and full details on how to install that on your truck is also on my channel, so make sure you check that out if you want to get one of these for your truck. Now as far as the interior goes, guys, I do have these molle panels here on the door. Right now, this molle pouch contains my tire deflators and my headlamp, and also my knife. Going to mid console, it's not really anything too complicated. I have a molle rack on that mid console. Mounted on there is a first aid kit. I have my radio, and this truck is a manual, and all of the lights is controlled by that light controller. And here's my back seats, guys. I have it pretty much folded down most of the time, but I do have passengers, so I do like to keep my back seats. So I have my emergency tool set here. This is my air compressor to reinflate the tires. That's a hammock. That's my camping chair. And that's a recovery tool bag. That's for if I get stuck and I have to use a winch. So that's shackles and all that other good stuff for recovery. And that's a wash container for washing dishes or washing up during camping. And I do have emergency stash of brake fluid and motor oil. And for camping, I do usually bring my wood splitting axe here and a small hatchet. Now for the camper itself, this is a camper made by 4-Wheel Camper. It's called the Swift, and it is their smallest model. Now what I really like about this camper setup, guys, is that I can use the 4 camper jacks with this four-wheel camper and take this thing off by myself, just in case I wanted to use the truck bed for moving furniture or anything that's odd sized. Now with the four-wheel camper, here's how she currently sits. The distance from the top of the tire to the bottom of that wheel well is about 7 3/4 inches at the driver's side rear. And at the front, she sits at about 6 1/4. On the passenger side front, she sits about 6 1/4 as well. And at the passenger side rear, she sits at about 8 inches. So this is how we get into the camper. And that's how you keep the door open if it's windy or anything like that outside. So at minimum, guys, this is what the interior of the camper looks like. Currently, I have the top pretty much down. But for this shot, I am actually going to be removing the camper from the truck so you guys can see how that goes. And in order to remove the camper, behind these covers here are the turnbuckles that hold the camper against the bed. So I'll show you that now. So all we have to do is undo these 4 turnbuckles under each of these openings. So you can see for the forward end it's a little bit tighter, and I actually have to put my hand pretty far inside to get those out, but it is doable. The turnbuckles are 2 different sizes. So this one with longer middle section is for the back, while the one with the smaller middle section is for the front. Now I'll mount the camper jacks on all 4 sides of this four-wheel camper. With all the camper jacks finally mounted, we're now going to raise the camper using those camper jacks just enough to clear the bed of the truck. Now we do have to make sure that the camper jacks is jacked up evenly in all 4 corners. So I go around and do that a little bit at a time. At this point, I'm going to roll the truck forward about 1 foot so I can disconnect the harness that connects the camper to the truck. And now I can drive the truck all the way forward and completely off of the camper. Mainline Overland does install all of the mounting points for the four-wheel camper. And when they did that, they pretty much just put this rubber matting underneath the bed. Then there's these 2 holding brackets that the turnbuckles mount to. These also keep the camper centered onto the truck. And the turnbuckles in the front mount on these rings here. Now I do like to lower my camper when it's just going to be hanging out in the driveway. So in order to pop up this camper, we have to undo these 6 latches here all the way around. There's 2 in the back and 3 in the front. And we also have to undo that latch up there and the strap that holds that pole there. Then this portion pops up and this portion pops up. So I'm gonna do that now. And that's what it looks like from the outside, guys, now that it's popped up. So now let's go inside. I'll give you guys a better look. So there are 2 bungees in here, so you can see it's there and right there. That's what keeps the fabric portion of the tent folding inwards when you close the top. So I'll remove them now. So that's the bed, guys. This thing does slide out. So you can put these cushions on top of that bed to extend it. This camper does come with 4 cushions, but I'm currently only using 2 because I'm really not that tall of a guy. There's the pillows and my sleeping bag. This is that collapsible table. That's my work boots, toilet, and this is all my camping gear in this bin here. I'll definitely have to find a better storage solution than this thing. So typically I have this stored on the ground because during rough roads this thing will slide off and fall on the ground. And these are pretty much sitting on top of that. Here is the fridge. Currently it's off. And my camper does come with 2 vent fans, so it's nice and cool in here. And this does have a deep cycle battery here with a solar charger up there. This thing does have my old solar panel if you guys have been keeping up with my videos. And this is the aerial shot of the solar panel when we had it set up at the campgrounds. This camper does have a liner to help it stay insulated during the cold camping, so this is actually really nice. And this also does have 4 of these windows, so you can see here, which pulls out completely to a screen to keep the bugs out, and you get massive airflow.
24 hours later.
Hey guys, so here is how the spring is currently settling the following day after I washed it and without any weight in the back. As you can see, the camper's off. Right now we're at about 9 inches. The driver front is about at 6.5 inches. The passenger front is also at about 6.5 inches. And the passenger rear is about at 9.5 inches. Alright guys, before I get to the analysis, I just want to preface that by saying that there is no such thing as a perfect rig. But you can put in the work to customize your rig a little bit better to make it suit your individual needs. What I do with this channel and with this truck is best summed up by one of my subscribers, Matthew Broder, and I'll highlight his comment below. He basically said that I'm your working man's YouTuber, and that's really what it is. I don't have a lot of budget for the most expensive and the sexiest parts, guys. So I do aim more for longevity, minimal maintenance, and skill development. That's why I do a lot of these DIYs to show you how to do it. Because like a lot of us, we really only have sweat equity to put into our truck. And I figured the more you work on your truck, the better it gets for you and the better you get for your truck. I do use my truck for multiple things, and the first one is for obviously weekend adventures, including camping, trail runs, and track days. I use the truck to tow my motorcycle to the racetrack, and if I'm going to do multiple days, then I like to camp out in it. So it really has to meet that requirement. The second thing I use it for is obviously like homeowner type stuff. I do own my own house, and I have to move furniture, move soil, move dirt, and move anything that's odd size. So having a truck bed is really quite useful, especially if I'm picking up a new fridge or appliance. Last but not least, I wanted to at least have the capability of having a temporary office. Now let's talk about the suspension, guys. As I mentioned earlier, I don't have unlimited money to buy the latest and greatest suspension system. So I really put a lot of thought and research in. And in the process of elimination, I didn't go with Foxes, Kings, or Icons because those cost about $3,000 to $8,000 depending on which stage you pick. And on top of that, these performance systems require rebuilding at roughly 25 to 30,000 miles. And I didn't want to do any more work than the necessary, especially if I'm aiming to minimize the amount of maintenance that I have to do. So rebuilding, that's a major work to undertake, especially every 25 to 30,000 miles. I ended up narrowing down my decision between the Old Man Emus and the Dobinson's nitrocharger. Both were pretty much on par with each other when it comes to performance. They're very similar in terms of what they do. But I went with the Dobinson's kit because they offered the extra heavy duty leaf springs at the rear and at the front. I know that I did not want to lose the 3 inches of lift in the front, and I also didn't want to add airbags in the back. So that's why the extra heavy duty leaf springs were great for the rear. As you can see, there is no sag in that back end of the truck. Both kits had a protective sleeve over the struts, and that protected the piston rod from rock as well as dust. So it definitely adds to the longevity of these struts. And if you're planning on ordering the set, make sure you have the coil spring already assembled with the strut, because you can't use those rental spring compressors from AutoZone or Pep Boys, because those things are extra heavy duty, and it gets really dangerous if you try this by yourself without the heavy duty spring compressors. Now, I went with the 4-wheel camper because I wanted a camper that I could move on and off by myself. And that whole process only takes me about 30 minutes, so it's really not that bad. I wanted something a little bit more comfortable during winter camping, as well as have a temporary shelter that I could stand in that's away from the environment, because I do plan on taking longer trips ranging from 1 week to a full month. And I figured that 4-wheel campers are reliable and durable, and I know it'll definitely last a really long time. In the short term, I do plan on regearing the truck to 488 gears, and just keep in mind, my truck is a manual. It does have shorter gearing than the automatic. That's why I can get away with all this extra weight without having the transmission struggle. And I'll show you guys that in a future video, because I do have a spreadsheet of the gearing analysis as well as a torque conversion between the automatic and the manual transmission. I do also plan on increasing the solar panel to at least help with the energy collection from the sun, especially during the winter months. And on top of that, right now all of my storage solution is pretty much in just like bins or bags, so I'm gonna come up with better storage solutions for all of that, so everything's more integrated together. And speaking of storage solutions, one of my subscribers, Brian, aka Lil Camby on Instagram, offered to measure and design molle panels that will go behind the rear seats. So I'm really excited for that, guys. You'll be seeing that in the next few weeks. If you want to buy any of the molle panels that I have, including that door molle panel as well as that mid-console molle panel, you can check that out on my website. Go to www.kflow-script.com. For future planning, guys, I am planning on converting the truck into a flatbed. This will at least help streamline the truck so that it matches the lines from the camper, and also gives me more work area so I can haul bigger stuff and odd shaped furnitures without any issues. So that will be pretty badass. So let me know what your thoughts are, guys, and if you have any questions about any of what I did for this setup, please leave them in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I know that was a lot that I covered in this video, guys, but if you want me to go into finer details about any parts of the truck, let me know and I'll make another video for that. And if you have any questions, again, you can leave them in the comment section below. And until next time, guys, peace.